And now, for your feature presentation.
They call us the Ramblers. Yeah, the Ramblers. We ramble on and on and on and on and on.
Tristen, I'm gonna get my hat, because I'm not mad anymore after talking about Lights Out. Oh, that movie.
On to the Gooder movie.
Yes. Gooder? Is that a word?
It is. I made it.
I'm trying to get rid of fist bumps.
Let's go on fist bumps.
I don't know. High fives are better. Like when you get a fist bump, it's just like, cool. When you get a high five, yes!
But you can do the explosion. What sparkles?
You can do a jellyfish.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not hip. So.
Do you want a jellyfish or an explosion?
Explosions.
You Michael Bay fan.
I'm sorry. I hate terrible director.
Okay, so, Tristen, your jeans are muddy. What did we just see?
Star Trek.
Star Trek?
Star Trek. Star Trek, Beyond. Star Trek
Nicely
Beyond.
done. So, were you one of my many friends who were like bemoaning this movie before it came out? You thought this would be terrible?
I honestly did think this was going to be terrible. Like,
why? It was
the trailer. The very first trailer is what got it for me. It was so, in my opinion, poorly put together. The background music was the Beastie Boys song from the first film. And
is it awesome?
Huh?
I love that song.
I like that song. Just for that, it shouldn't be there in the first trailer, in my opinion. And just knowing that J.J. Abrams wasn't going to be at the helm also lowered it down a little bit for me, because I loved the first two films. They were really good.
So basically you were scared of change.
Yes, I was scared of change.
You voted for John McCain.
I'm sorry. Just knowing that the Fast and Furious director, those movies...
I don't like the Fast and Furious movies.
I don't either.
But I still was excited for this based off the trailer. It was something different, and I guess for him, the fact of everything that was different was bad for you.
They should have eased it in a little bit better, I guess.
I just threw you in the pool after you were in the hot tub.
I mean, and a lot of the scenes showed Captain Kirk riding the motorcycle, and I thought...
Yeah, it's awesome.
I thought that's what they were trying to play off, is like, this is Fast and Furious,
no.
but in space!
I didn't get that at all. Ever since the Star Trek Into Darkness came out, that movie was kind of a mess, but I still enjoyed it. But I was afraid they were going to kind of fall into a rut with Star Trek, where they were just going to remake the first movie over and over.
Sure.
And the fact that J.J. Abrams wasn't producing this anymore, and the fact that the movie was going to mostly take place on a planet and not in space, and just everything that was changing, and we were getting new looks at new alien species, just everything that was different about it actually sold me on wanting to see the movie more. It's just... Star Trek, it's done so much before that fresh air was welcome for me, which is why I welcomed the J.J. Abrams movie when it came out. I'm a huge fan of Star Trek before it came out, but unlike most Star Trek fans, I actually was really excited for the movie, and it lived up. I enjoyed it. A lot of people... Sorry, I'm just going to go on a quick tangent. A lot of people dislike the fact that the movies aren't, like, as smart of films. Like, there's no political drama in it. There's no looks at racism and stuff, which the Star Trek show is really known for. It's known for a lot of intelligently done stuff. More The Next Generation than the original series, but I digress. Really?
You ever watched the Next
They're fantastic. It's fantastic. Now, the thing is, I don't want that in a movie. Like, I don't want a political Star Trek movie. Like, I watched the show for that. That's why I watched the show. It's fantastic. But you don't want to put, like, a Starfleet war in a TV show with low-budget CGI. You want that in a movie.
Yeah.
So put the flashy stuff in the movies. Yes, please. And keep the intelligent writing to the TV show where it can excel and you can love the characters and more in every single episode. So I just think it's a welcome addition. It's not a replacement to the Star Trek universe. It's called Ramblers for a reason. So I'm back to our impression or our expectations. I was fine with the change. I welcomed it. I didn't think this would like be better than the first Star Trek movie or necessarily surpass everything we've seen before, but I thought it would be a great addition to the universe. And this movie honestly didn't do a whole lot new, but it was still good.
It was enjoyable.
Yeah. This honestly, actually, the movie feels like kind of like a classic Star Trek episode. Yeah. It has the same type of story arc, the same type of characters introduced, but it's actually done well because it was, what, a 2-hour and 30-minute movie?
Maybe a little bit less than that.
Yeah, but like you actually get to meet the characters and care about the new characters, whereas just instead of like a 40-minute episode, you don't really have time to get the same impact. So I feel like this is kind of a throwback, but it still had elements in it that make it a movie, that make it more impactful, that don't just make it where it is just a TV show episode. There's moments in here that could only happen in a movie.
Yeah.
Let's actually start with some things we didn't like.
Okay.
Just because I'm sure that's the lower of the two. It's called Ramblers.
Yeah.
We're allowed to ramble.
Yeah.
That's why I put it in the title. That's why I made it the title. Because I knew I could have been this concise.
The villain Kroll himself, when he was, just the way he speaks, kind of threw me off a little bit. Because he would talk like this in every sentence, and it just kind of threw me out of his character a little bit.
Well, I thought that actually worked well. The villain Kroll. He has this ability, really his only ability, where he can basically siphon the life force out of people, and he takes on their attributes. And he was very alien at the beginning of the movie, but as it goes on and he's siphoning members of the Enterprise, his features become less harsh and he looks a little bit more human. And as that goes on, his speech changes. So I think it was a good way to contrast the character. Because like at the beginning, it was really stilted. He didn't even talk. He didn't even speak English. But then as it went on, he spoke more and more eloquently.
Yeah. Like
when he was talking to her.
Sure.
So I thought that was actually pretty cool. The way they showed the fact that he like stole the life force out of people, they did it really poorly. We'll say that, like,
cause they all
there's just randomly people like hanging up, and it looks like a heavy metal music video. And it looks like I thought they were getting electrocuted, and he was like grabbing onto them and being electrocuted with them, just because he was talking before about how conflict and misery is what defines like the Federation and beings, and that's kind of his motivation in the movie. So I thought he was just getting electrocuted with them, and then the next scene he had softer features, and I was really confused. So that was conveyed very poorly, which I would say is a big issue, or not a big issue. It was an issue with a lot of moments in this movie where things just aren't conveyed very well. In some of the action scenes too, like the fist fights, some of them were really good. But in some of them, it's like the camera was like right on their shoulder, and it like was over in like 5 punches, and you just like, you got the impact of the fight from the sound more than the, because it was so shaky, you couldn't hardly know what was going on. So that was a problem I had with a couple of those. A few of the action scenes have that problem where it's really difficult to register what's actually happening on screen because of how shaky it is. That works to its favor in some scenes, especially the space battle scenes. I feel like the shakiness of it worked well, especially like when they're in a falling ship and running, the camera's really shaky and jittery, but I thought it worked in that. But in others, when they're just like flying in a ship and it's just like blah, blah, I was like, I want to see the fight. It sounds cool. Let me see it. Nitpick, I know, but it's there. I get really into this, I'm sorry. There's this doomsday weapon that is played throughout the entire movie, and you see it kill one person. And they didn't need it. The enemies, the villains, they didn't need it because they had this huge fleet that at the time they thought was indestructible pretty much. I mean, they're all just little manned ships, but there's so many of them. And then they also have the Doomsday device.
Yeah. Maybe it was just like a backup plan, just in case.
Yeah, but for that to be like their existence for their ships and what they were searching for, and then it being a backup plan,
Yeah.
it felt really unnecessary. You could have taken it out. So, big Doomsday device, could have taken it out of the movie. That's a problem. But they did kind of hint that it could be seen again, and if we do, that'd be great. I'm deciding how to say this. I'm trying to say without spoilers. Okay, at one point in the movie, members of the Enterprise are taken captive. And you never feel like danger for them. You only see them in a couple scenes and they're all just kind of standing around. You never feel like they're actually in prison, and they still look so clean, like their shirts are all still nice, and they look like a Dr. Seuss novel where it's one fish, two fish, red fish, yellow commander. And I don't know, it was just never conveyed. There was never like, oh crap, some of these people could die. It was just, this sucks, we're all standing around here. We can't be on cool starships.
Dang.
And the fact that they were like in an enemy camp, you maybe see like 7 guards. And also at one point 2 members escape purely to like find out a characteristic of the main villain. It was purely for plot.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was kind of lazy. Like, couldn't it show us another way? It was just pure exposition, and then they're caught. Oh no! And then they gotta go back to their cell. And then we're all just gonna stand around again because that's our punishment. Okay, so you see so few enemies, and then in an action scene later, you see maybe 30 of them. But in a scene before and a scene after, there's a way that the enemies attack. They do it in individual fighters. And it's really cool to watch. It's beautiful, it's intimidating, it's frightening, especially when you first see it come out of space, the way it's designed. I loved that. Where did all of them come from? Like, maybe I just missed it in the movie, but they explain where these villains come from at one point. And it should be maybe like 300 people at most.
No.
Hundreds of years ago. Some of them would have died. And yet there are
Thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, potentially millions. I would say millions.
Yeah.
Especially in the later there's definitely millions of them.
I mean, at one point they form a huge wave of
Yes,
enemies.
There are millions of them, and there's 2 per ship.
I didn't think about that.
And there are so many ships. Where did they come from? You see them all take off, and it's like, oh, they've got like a new squadron, okay. And then it's just an entire horde. It's a mass that blots out the sun.
Maybe they live within the planet, inside the planet.
Well, they did say that, but why didn't we see them before? Why weren't they guarding the prisoners? And where did they come from? Like, where did they get all those
There's
soldiers?
just like an opening hole in the earth, and it just goes.
But where did they all come from? I don't get that. It's just, it was so low scale, and then to just have a planet-sized fleet appear out of nowhere, it just seemed a little far-fetched. Very nitpicky, I know.
Cool though.
Yeah, I mean, it pays off for an amazing scene that is worth seeing this movie alone for, but yeah, it just seemed far-fetched. It would, I don't know, it'd be kind of like at the ending of the Fellowship of the Ring. You just see like the squadron, the Uruk-hai hunting the Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
Just that squadron. I mean, there were a lot of them, but it was still like relatively small. And then they like turn a corner, and there's just the entire armies of Mordor and and Isengard just charging at them, and just be like, "Where'd you guys all come from? How'd you get here?" And in the Fellowship of the Ring, we haven't even seen you guys being made yet. I guess they did. Yeah. It's just like, how? I mean, it was really cool, don't get me wrong. I just wish they could have explained it. Although, this movie did get a little exposition at points.
I mean,
Just like the characters were just talking for the sake of plot points.
okay, yeah.
That happened like 5 or 6 times. It just bugged me a little bit. And my last issue with this movie, I promise, I do like this movie, would be the intro. I know you said like it gets up pretty quickly. It starts in like 15 minutes, but it feels like that. Like it feels like we want this movie to be on the planet, so we're gonna rush everything up to that point, and then on the planet, it that's when like the world that the movie wants to show you opens up, and it does. It does it well, and it's great to see that. But everything beforehand, the scenes are really snappy and stuff.
And that sneeze.
Yeah, and the sneeze. The scenes are all really snappy, and character introductions are not very well done. You get introduced like Spock and Kirk, and that's really it. Before, and I guess Scotty, and then everything goes downhill.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the previous movies have happened, but you still want to love those characters, and then they're hardly characters until 60% through the movie. There were some scenic shots in the intro that like it took my breath away, and I was thinking to myself, this is why I watch Star Trek movies. I was getting emotional off of it just because of how beautiful it was.
I mean, there's that one scene where they're in like warp, but you're from the side.
Yeah, you see it from the side. You actually get to see. They did a lot of creative things.
Scene.
It's just the core content of the intro could have been better.
Yeah.
I feel like it maybe was, and they cut a bit
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of the movie because it is a long movie, but it's still an issue, and I have to say it because this is a show where we do first impression critiques. And apparently I look way too into movies on the first impressions, but hey, I'm trying to make a good show. What did you like about this movie?
First off, the music was really good.
Goes without saying.
Yeah.
Score is iconic.
It's Michael Giacchino, of course. And I like how they used the theme for the opening.
But they didn't just, sorry. They didn't use the music. They didn't just use music from the previous Star Treks. There were some new original scores.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Alright. And of course, the special effects were really good. Just the shot, several scenes, the shot of them in warp was really beautiful because they had a lot of purple colors into it and blue colors, and just looks really good. Something the 2 previous movies didn't do, which was a happy surprise. And just that size of the fleet when you first see them, they're in the shadows, but you can kind of see the outline of them.
The enemy fleet.
Yeah, and they're playing some ominous music in the background, and everybody on the starship's freaking out, and that just got me really pumped for that entire action scene, which was like, it was a long action scene, probably 10 minutes. Well, maybe
It was longer than that.
longer than that. Oh, it was great. That new character, I don't know her name.
I
I thought she was a nice addition to the team.
thought she was great. I loved her. The new girl you've seen in the trailers, the one who's completely white except for like the black tattoos.
Yeah. Like that first scene that you see her in, she's like saving Scotty from these 3 scavengers or whatever, and she has this like technology where she can
She has
implicate
holograms.
multiple of her, and that was really cool because she's like running around in a circle and beating the crap out of them.
Her design, her look, her personality, just all of it was like, she's very likable and very,
Mm-hmm.
she's really pretty.
And her backstory's not bad.
It's
really
nothing
talk
we
about
haven't seen before, but
This one was a lot more quips, more comedic in this movie than the past 2. Because the
Yeah.
first 2 were really serious, and
I don't
had a
know.
couple clips in there. But
Yeah, I don't know if Simon Pegg helped write the other scripts, but he helped
sounds
write
like
this
it,
one,
Yeah.
and it's good. It's really good.
And I really like the chemistry between Spock and
Bones.
Bones. They were good together.
Yeah,
I
it was,
think.
one thing this movie does is it really pairs off members of the crew that in this universe, in the reboot. For the first 2 movies, it's really just the relationship between. In the first movie, it's Kirk and his relationship with all the people on the crew. And then the second one, it's Kirk and Spock are really bonding together.
Yeah.
This one pairs them off where you see the different members of the crew.
You
are
got
bonding. So you have
Scotty with Kirk, Bones with Spock.
Yes.
Well, not Scotty with Kirk. Sorry.
Chekhov.
Chekhov's.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Scotty is with the new girl. He calls her Lassie, so I'm just gonna call her Lassie. The only chemistry that was missing, it pairs off Sulu and Uhura, but it barely shows them at all the whole movie until the third act, and it really, especially with Uhura, she's barely in this movie, but
You forget they're there halfway.
yeah, you really do, and that's a real shame. Again, maybe it was just they had to cut for the sake of the length. This movie does have some needless drama thrown in. There's like, by the end of the movie, you don't know. There's a lot of variables, and then by the end of the movie, none of it mattered. Like, none of it will carry over into another movie.
Yeah,
So,
like, they didn't need that scene in there.
yeah, and the whole thing with Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, because it never ended up even happening in the first place.
So there's just needless drama thrown in.
I mean, I guess we kind of need that for a movie. Not really, but
No, you don't.
But they throw it in there.
Not for this, especially with where we've had that in previous movies. Those exact same elements of drama. But things we liked.
Okay.
What else did you like? Where do you want me to go?
Idris Elba. I don't know if I'm saying this name right.
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba. I'm gonna say that. He was pretty good.
I mean, it's Idris Elba.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And I'm not gonna give too much away. The way they play his backstory off was pretty cool towards the end.
Yeah, he was a solid villain.
Yeah.
He wasn't like Darth Vader, but he was good. Again, it's a very like old school Star Trek episodic. It's that kind of villain. And if you're okay with that, he's great.
Yeah.
One thing I absolutely adored about this movie is the camera angles with the Enterprise. One thing they did a lot with is they put camera angles on the Enterprise where you were like attached to a piece of the Enterprise. And also at the end, it shows a scene with the Enterprise. And it makes it feel like the Enterprise is a real thing. It makes it feel like it's not a piece of CGI. It's not a green screen you're watching. It is a real ship, and I loved that. There were a lot of scenes where you really get the feeling that the Enterprise is an actual ship, and that was phenomenal. I just really love that. The sound design, of course, is amazing. From the very first moment you see the Enterprise, you hear the classic sound effects, but I mean, it's not just all classic sound effects. It's solid throughout the whole movie. Another thing I liked about this movie is that this movie wasn't afraid to have style. They're not afraid to be unique with their style. They're not trying to imitate the old Star Trek. They're being their own thing.
I thought the scene with Kirk when he's riding on the bike was really good.
Yeah.
Well, and plus that director's known for that kind of stuff. For
Yeah.
Fast and Furious movies.
My biggest problem with this movie is just that it didn't do a whole lot unique or new for the Star Trek universe. But, having said that, this is a very solid Star Trek film. And again, if you want to have a better version of some classic Star Trek episodes, then this is the movie for you. It's great for that. This movie didn't really do a whole lot wrong. It just wasn't particularly unique. But what it did a lot of things very well, so it's great. And there's one scene that involves the enemy fleet and a starship, and it's worth seeing this movie alone for it. A lot of people are going to say it's campy and cheesy and ridiculous. I don't care. I love campy, I love cheesy, I love ridiculous, and oh my god, it was so awesome. It was so much fun to watch. This is a fun movie, I'll say that.
Fun blockbuster movie.
Yeah, it's unlike Into Darkness, it wasn't really fun.
I enjoyed it.
I
That's my
enjoyed
favorite.
it, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
This movie, it has fun with itself. It's not overly serious, which is good.
I think Khan though was most rememberable villain out of 3. Just because I love Benedict
Yeah,
Cumberbatch.
I really like
Nero.
Nero. Yeah. Yeah, Nero in the first Star Trek movie, he actually was supposed to have like this whole like self-contained story almost where he was captured by the Klingons and tortured for years, and there's a whole breakout scene.
That would have been awesome to see.
I know they had to cut it for the sake of it, but like there are a couple shots in the movie that they actually used from that, and they just used it instead.
Would they like release that with special features? So I would love to watch
Yeah.
that.
There should be extended editions for these movies.
If you go in and wanting to have fun, you're gonna have fun with this movie.
Yeah, it's a summer blockbuster, but it's actually good. Unlike
And I would even
say.
recommend seeing it in IMAX. I think that would be pretty cool, especially for that fight scene in space.
I
At the
don't.
very end.
I've never actually seen IMAX.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You've never seen a movie in IMAX?
Nope. I don't like 3D, and
Shoot. But you don't really notice it in IMAX because
Yeah.
it's so immersive.
so closing thoughts.
It was a very fun blockbuster movie, probably best of this, close to best of this summer. Definitely own it on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting the trilogy on Blu-ray. Action was really, really good. Chemistry was good between most of the characters, and they brought in the new characters really well, without
Forcing it.
just
Yeah. So solid new Star Trek movie isn't necessarily a unique Star Trek movie, but a solid addition to the Star Trek universe. That's fun and it humanizes the characters it needs to and fleshes them out. So if you're a Star Trek fan and you're wanting a fun Star Trek movie, it's possibly a throwback, then I'd say definitely go see this. If you're a fan of sci-fi, if you're a fan of sci-fi action specifically, I'd definitely say go see this. If you're just wanting a fun summer movie, then definitely go see this. I'd probably give this movie. What?
7.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7. I'd almost give it an 8 for the character interactions, but it's not quite there. And just because of the, I didn't like some of the action scenes. I got pulled out a couple too many times. So for that, I have to give it a 7. I wish I could give it an 8, but I can't. So go see it.
7.
7?
Yeah, go see it.
So yeah, solid. Not the greatest in the series, but it's not bad. Yeah. Look like.
Sorry. It wouldn't be the first time you punch me in the face.
That was an accident.
He says it's an accident, but punch me in the face. And I'll never forget that.
Accident. It was an accident. You stepped into it.
Oh,
I was already throwing punches and you like walked into it. It's your fault.
I had to tell my mom why I had a black eye. It was pretty close to a black eye. It was dark.
I'm sorry. Rest in peace, Anton Yelkin. Leonard Nimoy.
We love you.
Yeah, we really did. We still do. We'll miss you guys.